Hello, this is Jenny Kaminsky with Restoring Balance Equine Services. Today we're going to discuss how to perform a tail pull, but before we dive into the how, we need to dive into the why. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? What is the science behind it? There was a study in the Journal of Equine Veterinary Science that discusses the effects that a tail pull had on some participants. The participants were 23 horses that had reported back pain issues. The assessment was performed on each horse, both before and after a tail pull session. Each horse was pressure tested along certain areas along the back, and that was their criteria for determining if any improvement happened. The process went as follows. They did 3 separate tail pulls that were performed at just under 10 pounds worth of pressure. Each pull was about 20 seconds long, with about 10-second break in between each pull. So what were the results? They found a reduction in the back pain of the horses that were involved in the study. That's great news for us and gives us some place to go to help address a very common issue, which is back pain in horses. So let's move on to what is affected by a tail pull. One of the biggest things that's affected is the stretching that takes place in the muscles, the fascia, the ligaments, the tendons, the connective tissues that are within and surrounding the spine. Some examples of the muscles that are mostly affected would be our longissimus dorsi and the multifidus. Both of these muscles run along the back and continue through the vertebrae. So if we can stretch those out, that will have a positive effect along our horses' backs. Additionally, it has an influence on the horse's balance and stimulates their core postural muscles. Some of their common postural muscles along the core would be your reductus abdominal and the external abdominal obliques, among many others, but those again are some of the main components. It also helps encourage relaxation along the entire spine. Before heading into performing the tail pull, let's make sure that we address safety first. If you have any concerns your horse may kick, please do not perform a tail pull. It is not safe for you, it's not safe for the horse or the people around you. If your horse has any balance or neurological issues, be sure to consult your veterinarian before proceeding. If your horse has a fracture or any other medical condition that may be worsened by a tail pull, always consult your veterinarian before proceeding. Do you see a theme here? Perform the tail pull in a quiet place away from other distractions. Please do not be performing this out in a pasture with a lot of other horses around. Be sure to have a halter and lead rope on your horse and ideally have a handler available. Again, safety first. When in doubt, consult a professional for assistance. Before showing you some examples of how to perform this, I kind of want to go over a few of the basics. Be sure to slowly introduce your horse to having his or her tail touched. They need to be comfortable and relaxed in order for this to be effective for them. If they're pinching their tail down, you're not going to get the relaxation and the stretch that you need and want. Be sure to warm up the area prior to proceeding with the tail pull. I'm going to show you a few examples of how I prefer to warm up the area before moving on to the tail pull. When you go to grab the horse's tail, when you're prepared for that tail pull, make sure that you are grabbing the tail below the last vertebrae with a firm but gentle grip. Gently start to apply pressure downward at about a 30-degree angle. Do not apply more than 10 pounds of pressure. Now you might find that your horse starts to kind of pull against you a little bit and adds more pressure. And I'm okay with that if the horse is choosing to add more pressure. Just make sure that you're reading your horse and that you're proceeding with care. We definitely don't want to cause harm here. Start out with about 5 to 10 second pulls, and you can increase up to that 20-second mark as your horse gets comfortable. Ideally, you'll be performing these repetitions 3 to 5 times with at least 10 seconds between each rep. All right, let's proceed with how to warm up the tail prior to a tail pull. Please do not skip this step. Let's not just dive right into pulling that tail. Let's make sure that the tail is ready to accept that kind of pressure. In this video, you will see that I am just lightly touching the tail, rubbing the tail. I'm bringing energy and life into that tail, bringing awareness to it. As you can see here, Aria is very relaxed in her tail. She has no restrictions, no clamping down on my hand. So now that she's relaxed there, I'm also doing some light pressure down her tail. And I'm going to do this a couple of times as well. Again, I want to bring awareness to the tail. I want to bring energy to the tail. I want to bring in warmth to that tail. Get circulation going to prepare for those tail pulls that will be coming up shortly. The next thing I do to kind of warm up for a tail pull is I like to perform some tail circles as well. Again, just helps bring energy and brings warmth to the area and prepares that tail for being manipulated. In this video, I'm lightly grabbing her tail, supporting it with both hands. I am doing very slow circles. I like to do, anywhere from 3 to 5 circles one direction and switch to the other direction. If you look really closely, you can see that rotation carry through her whole body. So if you watch her nose, it will also circulate. If you need to, go back and revisit this video again. Now on to the tail pull itself. So again, I am looking to get below the bone, the last bone on that vertebrae, and I am lightly pulling down. Because I don't have a handler, Aria moves off a little bit, and that's okay. It's not a big deal. I just let go of the pressure. And again, on this particular instance, she's kind of putting her head down. It's another stretch she's doing. So I hopefully that this video helps describe not only how to perform a tail pull, but also why we're wanting to perform a tail pull and how it can help your horse.